Okay, welcome to the Cabinet meeting of the 9th of July. I'm Jeremy Hilton, I'm the leader of the Council. This meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. The recording of the meeting will remain online for 4 years, and if you are present in the chamber, you are consented to appearing in the recording and broadcast, which may be used for training purposes. First item on the agenda is apologies. I think we've got apologies from Caroline Courtney. She's at her daughter's graduation today, so she has good reason to miss, and she hasn't got any papers. Is there anybody else we've got to do? No? Okay. Next item is declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. Minutes of the meeting on the 11th of June. Are we happy that they be signed? True and accurate record? Yep. Okay. Public question time. We do not have anybody here. Andrew Miller, I do know him, so he's not here to ask his questions. So we'll move on to petitions and deputations. I don't think we've got any petitions or deputations, have we? No? No. Leader and cabinet member questions. The first two are from Councillor Alistair Chambers. He's not here to ask them. So our third one is from, no, there's got three, isn't he? The three of them. The fourth one is from Terry Pullen. Would you like to ask your question?
Thank you. Thank you for the answer to the question. I think I have to agree this is a dire situation now, and quite frankly, Councillor Hilton, had you showed some civic leadership and worked more positively with all of the parties around Podsmead, maybe the outcome would have been significantly different, and we may well have had a significantly more positive result. I'm concerned about your commitment to the people of Podsmead and the regeneration at Podsmead, and it's blatantly obvious, and I'm really disappointed at the cabinet member for Podsmead who spoke out against the proposal. That's quite abysmal. Anyway, my question. You've suggested that the future is down to Gloucester City Homes. In fairness, it's not just down to City Homes, is it? You've made a firm commitment in the corporate plan to support the regeneration of Podsmead and provide decent homes for the people in Podsmead. How are you going to do that? How are you going to honour the corporate plan? And how are you going to deliver new homes for people in Podsmead?
Thank you. When you talk about civic leadership, I almost think that you're suggesting that I should have interfered in the planning process and done some backhanded arm twisting of planning committee members. Let's get it straight. The planning officers worked with Gloucester City Homes to get the planning application to the table. The officers wrote a very good report. I've read it. I've also watched the committee meeting, and the members at that meeting made a decision to reject the planning application by just while I'm speaking, by 6 votes to 2, with 1 abstention. We also know that one Labour member left early, and the independent member arrived too late to participate. When it came to the votes, there was 2 members in favour of it. They were 1 Labour member and 1 Liberal Democrat member. They made their own decisions. So that's the situation. With regard to the future of Podsmead, we are fully committed to the regeneration of Podsmead. And that means restoration or refurbishment of existing poor housing stock. It might mean the demolition of housing stock that needs to be rebuilt and replaced, and we think that would be best on the same footprint. It's really, you know, as far as this planning application is concerned, it got refused by the planning committee in a democratic way. And it is not up to the leader of the council to interfere in that. And if you suggest that I should do, you're actually asking me to break the law. Thank you.
Just for clarification, I wasn't talking about the planning process or the planning committee. I was talking of decisions months and months in advance of that. Thank you.
Yeah, months and months might have been when I wasn't the leader. Right. Seb.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I didn't actually express an opinion for or against the application. I just raised some concerns and then I left it up to the committee to decide.
Question number 5, I've got Patel, Councillor Patel, and he's not here. So we'll move on to the next question, which is question number 10. That is Alistair Chambers.
Thank you, Leader. Just point of note, the door wasn't working. I was there for a few minutes. So if Rebecca checks her phone for the last 5 minutes, it wasn't letting me. And I also texted you, Jeremy, saying I couldn't get entry. So I'd appreciate it if I could still ask my first few questions. I was here on time. The door was locked.
Well, I'll let you get back to. We've got a lot of questions. I'll take them at the end if we've got time.
Okay, thank you. Much appreciated, Jeremy, for your kind heart. So question number 10, I believe it's this one then, which asks, will the council be making any changes to the crematorium? And you responded saying the operational procedures have been reviewed and you're going to appropriate processes to improve and mitigate risks. So thank you very much for saying you're going to make changes and improve to reduce risk of people being buried in the wrong grave. Thank you. So the question I'm asking for is the Cabinet Member for Resources. Given that this happened under your portfolio where people have been buried in the wrong locations, wrong grave locations, would you take it upon yourself to wish the families an apology on behalf of the City Council in your capacity as Resources? I think it would be much appreciated if you could. Thank you.
Absolutely, but we have engaged with the families and we have apologised to them. But I'm happy to put on record that you know, we are sorry for what happened. I was expecting you to say what we have done to improve things, if you're interested.
Very much so interested. It was great to hear from Mr. McGinty, the Managing Director, that you've actually located 2 of the missing children's graves. So that's fantastic news that work's being done. And I've notified the family member and they're looking forward to accessing the location and have a reunion with their child. So that's fantastic news. So thank you for the work you've been doing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And hopefully you won't bury any more people in the wrong graves. Thank you.
Right. 2 things. We've just a very simple change. For funerals in future, the name of deceased will be placed at the grave in a metal stand, so that when the procession arrives at the grave, you will see a name there. So there'll be absolutely no confusion and no doubt that they're in the right location. A very simple change. We've also created a spreadsheet for all purchases and reserve graves, going through all plans and purchase ledger all the way back to 1976. A transformation work programme has been developed as part of the service plan to move all of the old records into an electronic cremation and burial system, where the ledgers and maps will then sit electronically and not in old-fashioned paper form. And those will be brought in. We're working on that programme now.
Thank you so much. That's really good to see the steps the council have made going forward. And the name tag.
Let's not debate.
Given the nature of
next question.
Given the nature around it, it's really good you can have the name tag of the person who's buried there. But please don't forget you buried a Sally Ann in the wrong Sally Ann's grave. So double checks still need to be done on that. Thank you. Question. Second question. Obviously, we're going to go back to my other ones if there's time. Was that the city centre's just got dirtier and dirtier and dirtier, especially underneath the cabinet member, Councillor Field's portfolio. Waste is everywhere, litters sprawl in the streets. It's just it is a shame to walk along our beautiful cathedral city and just see the armpit
What's your question?
of what it has become. So my question is what's going to happen going forwards to rectify the last year of Sebastian Field's cabinet membership of environment, where the city centre has definitely fallen into decline, street drinkers everywhere, rubbish is around the city. It's just, it's a sad embarrassment. And what's he going to do to rectify his mistakes? Thank you.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you for the question. I don't agree with your characterisation at all of the city. I think we have a team of city centre operatives who are doing a sterling job. And if there are any issues, then it's up to members of the public and especially members of the council to report them to us and we can rectify it. But if you look at the answer I've given you, statistics on city centre cleaning and your question about missed bin collections, both of those are incorrect. And you'll get, I'm afraid, just getting your facts wrong. And I'm proud of the work I've done in my first year. There's plenty more to be doing. But if we're talking about the cleanliness of the street, we've got a new plan to improve the city centre even further, which is working with Gloucester Bid on doing some pressure washes. And I've just seen that recently in the news. We're having a campaign to encourage residents to recycle more and specifically to use the lids, what I call the shower caps. And it was very pleasing to see on Spotted Gloucestershire, the page that you run, Councillor Chambers, that you were promoting this. So it's excellent. Yeah, allegedly, indeed. And so that was very heartening. And I think all members can play a part in this work to improve the uptake of the recycling service in Gloucester, which is an excellent recycling service, works very well for the city. Wider work within my portfolio. I've got through council and cabinet the GUGS, the Gloucester Urban Greening Strategy, which will help to alleviate climate change. We've got through the climate change strategy itself. That's been approved by full council. And we've also got the glyphosate reduction strategy, which I know is a cause very close to your heart, Councillor Chambers. So I think I've done excellent work in those areas. And it's certainly not up to you to state whether or not I'm doing a good job. It's up to the leader and the residents of Gloucester. And I think they think I'm doing a good job. And if they don't, then that will be that.
Well, I walk around the city centre far more times than Councillor Chambers does because I live near the city centre and it is incredibly clean. There's very little litter. What impresses me most is when I walk into King's Square, that almost every morning there's a guy steam cleaning the floor, taking up the bird mark and things. These were things which were never done under a former administration. It looks really clean and tidy. Your jaundiced opinion is probably just a provocative statement made by a member of the opposition trying to stir things up. But the reality is completely different. I'll now take Stephanie Chambers.
Thank you. Just to point out, the one doing the jet washing is Alan Platt, and he was actually an independent. He was. It's look on the photos on Bid. So thanks to the independents for cleaning up Gloucester.
Can we, Stephanie?
So, Chair, we're just ready to start on question 17, yep. I'm really, really disappointed with the answer. I'm very aware of what the planning committee decided, but I'd really, it would be interesting to get a supplementary, it would be good, but actually let's go back to the original question. And my question was, what is your opinion in relation to the years time spent and the position that Posmead Regeneration now finds itself in. And there are millions of pounds wasted, whether they're through this council. There was government money grants set up, 1.25 million initially, to work all this through. And ultimately, this money has come out of being provided to the residents' benefit now. There's a lot of money wasted. So just your opinion on that whole situation as the Cabinet Member for Planning, and what you feel is regeneration can be now for that city, for people living in inadequate homes and for people on that waiting list.
Thanks for your question. As Cabinet Member who does not sit on the committee, it's not for me to comment on the application. It was deferred by the committee. I was at the committee and I saw what happened, and I'm happy that, the legal process was followed. A motion was put forward by a member to defer it, as they obviously felt the changes they were asking for would help them with their decision, but it was put to a vote, and other members voted against deferring it, because obviously they felt that the changes being asked were not enough to sway their decision. So I watched it, and I believe that the members did what they're supposed to do. They looked at the information in front of them, and they made a decision. It's not for me to interfere and influence the committee. So my opinion is that the process was followed, and democracy, it's the democratic process, and the outcome is what the outcome is. As far as the work done by officers, yes, it was 8 years of hard work by the officers. I've inquired, I've looked at evidence to show that they fought hard to get this over the line. And, at the end of the day, it was Gloucester City Homes' application. They were well aware of the issues with their application. I've seen many times conversations, evidence that they were told that limitations of their application. But at the end of the day, it was up to them to bring a sound application that would pass. It didn't pass. So going forward, obviously Podsmead, yes, it needs regeneration, but I want to put to bed this whole once in a lifetime regeneration. It wasn't. There was going to be about 100 net houses. The following application was from Bromford there was going to be way over 100 affordable houses, and that was just small fry for them. So I want to put to bed this is a once in a lifetime generation thing. It wasn't. And it wasn't really regeneration. It was building on green space. So actually the residents of Podsmead were losing green space, and 65 houses out of 400 odd that Gloucester City Homes own were going to get refurbed. That's not regeneration. So going forward, we need a proper regeneration plan that means all residents of Podsmead's houses are improved and their green space is improved so they can use it, because, I'm surprised that Labour are kicking off about this, because in their manifesto, they put about health inequalities and improving that. Well, one of the key things is that often deprived areas don't have access to green space. This does have access to green space. So we need to make sure that the residents can use that green space. So at the end of the day, we need to go back to the drawing board and look at what is proper regeneration for Podsmead. And the members voted that this wasn't it. So but we want to have regeneration in Podsmead.
Thank you. Right, can we go to the next question, Steph?
Thank you. And it's a similar question to Luke on what your opinion is in regards to being the housing member with people desperate, whether that's 100 extra houses, that's 100 families that could have had a more adequate home. And to compare it to the other application is neither all there. They're very, very different applications. One is providing regeneration, and a lot of those properties have already started to have the EPC works that aren't included in that 65, that had the EPC works to bring them up to a greater standard in Podsmead. And every application is about a balance. So what is your opinion? We're looking at pharmacies, improved green space, because that's an underused open space. And there's a balance to be had, and no regeneration project is ever going to tick every box because it's very difficult to do regeneration. What the other applications are doing are also building on a green
Get
space.
to the question rather
Yep,
than
so my
the
question
statement.
is, what is your opinion and how do you feel about those people, even if it is 100 on that waiting list, that now have to wait possibly another 8 years to get a property?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we always need more affordable housing in the city. There's no two ways about that. But that isn't at any cost. And I'm the cabinet member for housing, but I do not sit on the committee. And it's quite clearly it's a committee's decision. I think the vote could have gone very differently if Labour hadn't walked out before the vote. If the independent candidate, councillor, wasn't late. And equally, I believe you were at the LGA and you could have come and voted as well. So the outcome, I think, could have been very different if members had attended. But any regeneration is needed in the city, but like I said, not at any cost.
Chair, I just wanted to make a point of clarification. I was at the LGA, obviously with yourself. I'm the leader of the Labour Party, and I sent a person in my place that did vote for and argued for the deferment. So my not being there did not change that outcome. If I had voted that way or not, I wasn't in the meeting, so.
Well, yeah. I mean, you brought up the issue that the fact is that the meeting was held when it was scheduled, that there was an opportunity for members who couldn't attend to send substitutes, that some substitutes were sent. There was a full complement of members sitting around the table. The officers presented a very good report with two options in there, open report, and at the end of the debate, members voted and made a decision. Independently of anybody else, they made a decision. And that was 6 votes against the application, 2 votes for and 1 abstention. That's the fact. And it's nothing to do with this cabinet, it's to do with the planning committee. And you need to accept that. They made a decision. They made a decision, nobody else. And interestingly, not one Conservative member sitting around that table voted in favour of the Podsmead plan. Not one Conservative member did so. That's the fact. Nothing else. Can we move on to question number 2? Yeah, go on, sorry.
I'm not sure. I'm sure I put this question to the cabinet member for planning, because I don't know if my question's been misunderstood, because this is in relation to building control, which I think sits in cabinet member for planning. But it still sits, the responsibility sits under us.
But high-rise buildings, cladding.
So this is in relation to any buildings that sit within the city of Gloucester that have been marked as being dangerous or unsafe, dangerous structures under building control.
I think we need to sort this question out after the event, because I'm not sure we
Question was quite ambiguous. It wasn't clear what you wanted. So if you want to let us know what exactly you want to know, because it was hard to know what it was that you needed, what answer you wanted.
Yeah, well, you can ask us supplementary and we'll get you a written response. Or you can ask the question next week and give us some advance notice and we make sure you've got an answer.
If we could just clarify then, so my question, the original question is to provide a report of all the buildings reported dangerous structures within the last year in the city of Gloucester and any actions and outcomes that have been taken from that under the building control regime. Not council-owned buildings, they could be council-owned buildings, they could be anything. So that is my question. And really the supplementary is irrelevant without having that information. So if I could just have a written report on that published.
Yeah, we'll get you I think we need to give you a written answer. We're not going to give you one that is satisfactory. unless it's put in writing, we get the facts right. So we'll do that for you. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Next, number 12.
Yep, so my supplementary is looking at the drivers that cause issues within our city, within every city, drug and alcohol abuse, youth violence and disenfranchised families. You mention certain drivers in there, and some fall within the responsibility of this city council, some we partner with, and some are our responsibility. Looking at regeneration as a whole of some of our properties across Gloucester, that does offer, we have a huge issue with overcrowding, people on our waiting list that are waiting, that have teenagers, opposite sex teenagers, sharing a tiny bedroom, etc. In your opinion, what do you think needs to happen to ensure that we offer the people living in some of the worst properties in our homes across the city and on our waiting list hope to think that this council and this administration are concerned about their plight and what they're going to do to avoid and tackle some of these issues faced by a housing crisis?
Thank you for your question, Stephanie. You've raised probably the most hardest question anyone could possibly answer when it comes to exactly what you said, overcrowding. The issue very much is that in terms, I think it can sort of shift really to Luke's portfolio, this in terms of housing. But what I hear daily is people on the different bands of the housing waiting for accommodation and finding it absolutely, and you said for yourself, it's about trying to give them hope, and hope can sometimes be a little bit useless when they're told that they've probably got 5 years to wait before housing comes up. I think it does mean that we have to build more affordable housing, which is quite incredulous considering, but we've gone through that before. But I think there are other ways, like we work with a lot of partners, and there's one housing provider called Emerging Futures. And I think, you know, that and Cheltenham YMCA, and looking at all these providers that could maybe set up houses in a more temporary solution, just to get people embedded within living in accommodation. So I'm looking at really from the rough sleepers point of view, sort of like the next stages on. I think sometimes it's really difficult for people who are sleeping rough to go straight into accommodation, because I find that what I've seen as well, that's quite an overwhelming feeling and without the adequate support. But you've raised so much in that question of yours that I would have to tackle it by just really filtering all the different components. But as you know, it is really complex. I don't know if Luke, as the housing cabinet member, would like to add anything to it, because he has such a wider knowledge of all the different housing. And I know me and him have talked about enhanced placements, and that for me sounds really the way forward. Luke, would you like to just mention something about that?
Yeah, so we always need to improve outcomes for residents. And like that's my number one thing, is trying to catch people from becoming homeless in the first place. And one of those things is to improve the standards that they're living in to start with. A paper that will be coming through Cabinet very shortly might address some of the concerns you've raised.
Okay, final question, and we've now gone to half hour. So it's the last member's question. I've allowed the members to basically eat into the public questions because there was no public question supplementary. So, Steph.
Thank you, Chair. It's good to see some progress has been made on these properties. And I hope to see, obviously, as these were all specifically mentioned in the corporate plan, that there will be monitoring performance indicator to keep an eye on these things. So just in relation to Spread Eagle Court, it says that there was considerable dilapidation and obviously things progress over time. But I am aware that a safety report was done, I think last year or the year before, which stated it wasn't unsafe to the public. So it looks to me like things have changed and we've stepped in. So what was happening with the safety of that building? What's changed, and what action has this city council taken, and what were the public safety risks?
The big risk is that the side doors were open, that people were getting in there for whatever reason. They might have been camping overnight, they might have been having parties, they might be even setting fires going in the building. We don't know. There's a whole load of broken windows. We have secured the building. I've got like 7 new photographs saying the job is done with some steel. I haven't actually seen them yet, but I did check the other week, and we were a day late, and I could see that the side door was wide open, and anybody could get in the building. That was blocked off the next day. So we're making it secure. The Spread Eagle Court is on the agenda of the Major Projects Board. Is owned by somebody else. The Cabinet has agreed to use the powers, or it was given itself powers, which was approved for compulsory purchase if necessary. We are having discussions with potential partners who might want to carry out the refurbishment for housing purposes. It's a difficult one. I see it as a higher priority than the one in London Row, purely because of the safety of the building and the security and its architectural merit as well in that location. But it is one that is clearly we need to work on. And we're having that every month with the Major Projects Board. We're looking at that, and I'll be asking questions of what's happened in Spread Eagle Court, what the next steps are at tomorrow's meeting. But I think it's good to see that we've taken action. And we put out, there was notices on the window about telling the owner to secure it. He didn't, so we've done it, and he will be recharged for it. So if that building is sold, they'll have to pay the costs we've done so far to secure it. So we progress things, I think, more effectively than has been done before. But yeah, it's a difficult one to do, but we'll see where we get to. But the most important thing was to make sure it was secure from anybody entering the building. But we do know that people were entering the building, and there was complaints from people living in the new block opposite the Gloucester City Homes block, I can't remember what it's called now. So people were complaining about people getting in. And we've seen what's happened to other buildings in Gloucester when people get in.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. That's the end of members' questions. If you've got any supplementaries you want to try, we've got council next Thursday, so there's plenty of opportunity to ask questions. I'm sure the man that's sitting in the back with his thumb down now, thumb up, will have some to ask. Improving the outcomes through homeless prevention. That, I think, is Luke.
Thank you. This paper, which I'm calling the Gloucester Offer, is an innovative new direction that the council, driven by this administration, is moving in, shifting away from crisis fighting to investing in prevention, prioritising compassion and long-term outcomes over short-term fixes, ensuring residents are supported before they reach crisis point. Along with the past approach, we will be providing a dedicated mediation service to families and young people, proactive landlord engagement to enable people to stay in their homes longer, additional funding to advice services, bringing back important home visits, signposting in a meaningful and interactive way to services such as debt advice, cost of living advice, voluntary and statutory services. This paper also went to overview and scrutiny, which went well. There were some great discussions that took place, and it gained cross-party approval. And sort of broad acknowledgement that we needed to do things better. The Gloucester offer will not only improve outcomes for residents in providing a better all-round service, but also work to reducing temporary accommodation use by preventing homelessness before it becomes a crisis, which is the most costly and traumatic part of presenting as homeless to the council. And I believe this is to approve, this report.
Anybody else want to make comments on this report? Seems a good forward-thinking report. I think, has it been to scrutiny? I think it has, yeah. So I think they've endorsed it. So we're taking things forward, and I think that's a positive step. So are we happy to approve? Yeah. Sarah, increased enforcement capability.
I'm really pleased to bring this report to Cabinet today. It was part of our manifesto that we improve enforcement across the city, especially in planning, which has been pretty non-existent under the previous administration. Phase 1 of this project involves merging 3 teams into one enforcement team. This will cover private sector housing, planning and environmental crimes. These 3 services make up the largest proportion of enforcement activities in the council. Private sector housing regulate housing standards and conditions. Enviro crime team deal with things like fly tipping and commercial waste. And planning enforcement deals with breaches and non-compliance. The first phase will not incur any additional costs, but will strengthen the service, as officers will now be working as a team. It will bring consistency and stability and will enable the new team to realise opportunities to be more efficient and effective across multiple enforcement remits that are often interrelated. We want residents to know that we are taking enforcement seriously and want to be a proactive service rather than a reactive service. Phase 2 will be to recruit a number of new multi-skilled and specialist roles to support and enhance the current activity, to improve the service, and hopefully most of this will be covered by income generated from enforcement activities. Lost my bit of paper. The final phase will be focused on growth and recruitment to ensure that the council can meet its statutory duties and support the implementation of 2 new pieces of legislation that are coming in, Renters' Rights Act and the Regulatory Oversight Act, which will be bringing in new enforcement duties in September 2025 and April next year. Alongside the phased approach presented above, the council will focus resources on policy and process development to ensure fairness, consistency and transparency of policies. It will focus some resources on transformation as well to ensure that technology is an enabler of efficient and effective performance. Going forward, we will be reporting the activities of the team to the Planning Committee and to the Overall Scrutiny Committee. And I also want members to be informed of any enforcement cases that are happening in their wards. So Cabinet is asked today to resolve that 1, the contents of this report and its appendices are noted, and 2, the proposals to increase the council's enforcement capabilities, capacity and activities are endorsed.
Thank you. I must say that, well, first of all, I want to thank the officers who worked on this manifesto pledge to come up with an imaginative way of putting together our enforcement actions and in putting a team together which should really improve the way this council enforces various issues. I mean, we know, for example, that the enforcement of planning breaches was incredibly weak and it needed to be strengthened. We will have 2 members in that team at the start. We didn't, we were at 1, and it's caused real problems in trying to deal with those issues. But also, welcome James Dykes as the regulation manager. We weren't able to tell you at scrutiny who it was, but he was there as well, and it's his report. So he started. I think he's done pretty well. One of the first big actions is Spread Eagle Court and putting enforcement in there to make that building safe. So hopefully over a period of time it will improve. And if we can keep members advised of what's happened in their own wards, and we can start progressing enforcement actions where necessary, that will be a really good thing. Because I think that's the most effective way in ensuring that people comply by the regulations. They're less likely to comply by the regulations if they think nobody's going to take them to task. If we take them to task, they'll start to understand that maybe they can't get away with that in Gloucester any longer, and they better not do it in the first place. And that's the really good thing about enforcement. So the team will strengthen. There is a map on Appendix 2 which shows you the chart of the staff that we're going to have in phase 1. So that's going to be strengthened over time. But are we happy to agree the recommendations? Yep. Okay, that's done. Next one, youth engagement priorities. That's Rebecca.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really excited with bringing this youth engagement priorities for 2025 to 2030 to this Cabinet. Gloucester is putting young voices at the heart of its future, and so they should. With nearly 1 in 3 residents under 25, these priorities mark a shift from consultation to co-creation, establishing a youth-led framework that amplifies lived experience, tackles barriers to safety and well-being, and gives young people the power to shape where they live. This is backed by 2 years of local research and aligned with county and national policy. It calls for a cross-sector alliance, sustainable investment and meaningful opportunities for young people to lead change across community safety, housing, the environment and beyond. Gloucester can be a city where young people don't just speak up, they actually lead. I hope that you'll agree with me after reading that our youth engagement priorities are dynamic, creative, inspiring, where most importantly, the voice of the young person is truly at the centre of the priorities you see comprehensively laid out in this report. A lot of work has gone into understanding the needs and desires of young people, and much thanks goes to the key officer, Rachel Key, in working tirelessly in making sure that the correct priorities are set out, which are, as you can read for yourselves in the report, first, hearing from young people and what matters to them. Your voices, your Gloucester, aiming to collaborate, coordinate and celebrate young people. Secondly, we need to challenge the stigma that limits many opportunities for young people. We want young people in Gloucester to feel seen, valued and safe. And last, but certainly not least, the opportunities for young people to grow, supporting young people to explore, create and thrive in ways that are meaningful for them. Together, these priorities create the plan of focus for the next 5 years and to ultimately use any funding that comes our way as a district to be used with these priorities in mind. I look forward to hopefully the Cabinet supporting this document. Thank you.
Any comments from any members? Luke?
Yeah, I think it's great to see this paper coming forward. I think the youth are essentially the future of the city. So they need to be sort of front and centre, I think. I didn't realise that there was 30% of the residents were under 25, which seems to be a high proportion. So that's, I think, key of why why they're so important to engage with. I think it was on page 8. There was a good video link that really shows the real people behind this and why it's so important. So if you haven't watched it, it's well worth a watch.
Thank you, Rebecca, for this report. I think the part of the report makes it quite clear that the statutory duty for operating these services is Gloucestershire County Council. As a county councillor, I've seen the youth service just disappear over the last 10 to 15 years to the point where I don't think anything exists any longer of any note. And one just hopes that in passing this report, we ought to send it through to Shire Hall as well and ask them how they can help us deliver a better for the young people of the city, bearing in mind that Gloucester has a much younger population than other parts of the county. It also has a bit more deprivation than others, so we need to make sure that we can really help young people grow and thrive and do really well in life rather than pushing them down. A good youth service is important to do that. And, you know, I think maybe also we ought to be requesting that the Member of Parliament for Gloucester also sees whether he can secure money either through to the County Council or to Gloucester City Council to help us develop a much better level of support for young people. But are we happy to agree? Yeah. Item 10, that's Declan.
Must be the financial item.
That's financial outturn, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You like that one?
Yeah, I'm sure. Quarter four is essentially, this is the final financial outturn for the year. And what we find is the quarter four is roughly in line with what we were saying back in quarters 2 and 3, albeit there's a further deterioration of 30,000. So we're back to where we were predicting in quarter 2. That said, we might be able to get it back down to what we said in the last quarter if we can capitalise some of the costs which are responsible for the overspend in asset management. That will be an accounting adjustment, but these are the numbers as of now. I guess we'll have to speak to our auditors about that. But just to give you an example of how this is always a moving target, in my own portfolio of resources, we did improve things in asset management and commercial property, but then we were hit by other issues, issues in particular in our car parks and at the crematorium. We are bringing forward some mitigation measures that I can discuss, you know, if anybody wants any further details. The property purchases for temporary homelessness are pretty much complete now, so that will reduce our temporary homeless spending. Upgrades in King's Walk and Eastgate car parks should bring in more income. The equipment's already arrived, so I'm not quite sure when they're going to be installed yet. Solar panels and heat pumps at GL1, thanks to a grant from Sports England, will help with the energy costs. Cremators at the crematorium will be replaced with more energy efficient ones. However, this is a 3 to 4 year project, so that's more of a long-term efficiency. We have brought the post back in-house, which is improving things, and we have changed the outgoing post contract, and we've got a cheaper deal elsewhere. Freedom Leisure contract is now up and running and paying us a management fee. And we've repaired the sorting line and the baler at the depot, which was one of the things that hit our finances at the end of the last quarter. So hopefully these should last a long time now. I understand that pretty much most of the moving parts have now been replaced, so that should put us on a firmer footing. Finally, the capital programme schedule you'll find in Appendix 1 of the report, and welcome any comments, really. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. I think we should also remember that this is the outturn from the last budget of the last administration. So we've been managing their budget over the last 12 months, and I have indicated before maybe the budget sums weren't as good as they could be, and that we've had to deal with some of those issues. But I think we are turning around the council. One of the key things we're going to need to do, because we can't at the moment be sure we'd get any extra money from the government or any extra money from the council tax. The council tax rise just might cover the loss in income that we might get from the government, is to deliver and drive forward savings, but also to drive forward our commercial income. And that's a way when we can secure better finances for the council. But I wanted to thank the officers. We've got a new head of finance, so she's had to deal with the tail end of this budget as well, and to hopefully fix it. So I'm hoping it will do better in this financial year. But it is difficult in local government at the moment to keep everything to budget. But it's certainly not. It's not bad. It's quite close to what the budget originally was set. So we've done really well to maintain that and to take the council into this year with reasonably stable finances for a district council. Are we happy to take that report? Yep. This is the most exciting one, item 11.
It is indeed. I have to say, I remember years ago when I started a rock band. I remember the first gig we played, we emptied the hall, and I sort of had that feeling coming back there. Everybody suddenly walked out, but never mind. Okay, so risk management. As a council, we have a responsibility to identify and manage our risk. This is our annual risk management report in front of you. It sets out the framework we use, details how it fits into our annual governance statement, outlines the principles that underline it, and explains how it helps determine the risk-based audit plan which is used by our internal auditors. It also details our risk management action plan for 2025-26 and includes our strategic risk register as of May 2025. The key points to this report are, if you look at the framework, you can see that the key responsibilities for managing risk lie with the Audit and Governance Committee, the Chair of Audit and Governance, the senior management team, plus all the staff. And in many ways, it's really all of us. We all have a responsibility for managing risk in this organisation. With regards to the links of the annual governance statement, a document, incidentally, which I think people should, it's not read often enough. If you look at the annual governance statement, there's a set of principles that are listed. One of these principles is managing risk and performance through robust internal control and strong public financial management. We use what is known as the 3 lines of defence model. These are, the first line of defence are functions that own and manage the risk, or in other words, the senior management team. Second line of defence are functions that oversees the risk and ensures compliance, that's audit and governance. And the third line of defence are functions that provide independent assurance, that's our auditors, both internal and external. This is all summarised in attachment A. The purpose is to identify and assess risk that is associated with the achievement of the Council's priorities and objectives within the corporate plan. This also helps with the risk-based internal audit planning. The higher the risk, the more attention you will get from the auditors. This will form part of the internal audit plan that is approved every year by the Audit and Governance Committee. The risk-based action plan is in attachment B. Finally, I need to draw your attention to the current strategic risk register. It's a living document that is regularly updated. It's a useful document as it details what we currently assess our risks to be. And that's pretty much it. It's our annual risk management report. I'm happy to take any comments or any questions.
Anybody? No? It's approved, thank you. Item 12, sale of Sneedham's Green, of land at Sneedham's Green, sorry. That's you in there.
Okay.
Do we?
The public bits.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we just stick to the public paper.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. The purpose of this report, as it says, it's to approve the freehold land, sale of land at Sneedham's Green to Bromford Developments Limited to provide access to the proposed Snow Capel housing development. The land forms part of the Sneedham's Green Common. The owner of the main site for the housing development has applied to the Planning Inspectorate for the deregistration and exchange of part of the common land. If this application is successful, what will happen is that the area shown in red on this map here will no longer be classified as common land. Additional land will be exchanged and included to form part of new common land. The additional land is owned by a third party. The council will not take an ownership or any maintenance responsibility for this additional land. The disposal will only take place if this exchange of common land takes place. The Planning Inspectorate decision is anticipated mid-August. The intention is that the proposed development to have 76% affordable housing, which provides an additional 56% over the 20% policy compliant figure. It is proposed that a 56% reduction in the consideration is proposed for the access land to reflect the council's support for the scheme. If the additional affordable housing is not utilised for affordable housing purposes, then an overage clause within the land transfer will be triggered and Bromford will have to pay the market value of the land. This could then be directed towards affordable housing provision elsewhere in the city. I should point out that two things have happened since the publication of this report. At Planning Committee held on the 1st of July, the resolution was given to grant the planning permission for the scheme with 20% affordable housing, with a memorandum of understanding for the provision of the additional 56%. Also, the Section 123 notice advertising the disposal of open space has been published, with the closing date for objections being the 3rd of July. No objections have been received. Therefore, this decision will support a housing development scheme with the potential to provide 76% affordable homes, 20% of which will be secured through the planning obligations and an additional 56% through separate legal mechanisms. The delivery of the significant level of affordable housing should make a substantial contribution to meeting local housing needs and will represent a positive social value outcome for the city. So what we're being asked to do here is that if you look at the report 2.1, we're asked to resolve, number A, planning permission, subject to planning permission being granted, well, it's been granted. And number C here refers to the Section 123 procedures being undertaken. Well, that's now been done. So there's really just one condition there, the planning committee's the planning inspectorate's decision to the application for the deregistration and exchange of common land. So that hasn't happened yet. And secondly, the subject to authority, that it's requiring us for authority to be delegated to the head of place in consultation with the asset management team to agree the terms for the sale of the land. So that's where we are, and I would hope that we will approve this because it will provide a new development with 76% affordable housing. That's definitely not to be sniffed at, so I hope I can get everybody's support.
Anybody want to comment on this?
Yeah, I'm 100% behind this. It's a critical part of delivering new affordable housing and market housing, to that matter, across the city. And I think it'll have a wider impact for regeneration across that area as well. So it's absolutely critical. And I'm very happy that we're also delivering that 76%.
I'd like to say this is the plans by Bromford are first class, high quality. There will be a great deal of green space for the residents of this estate, and that the transaction effectively on this land is to remove the landlock. In other words, to give access to the roads that need to service it. And of course, the common land will be increased considerably in size by the agreements that have been set. So, despite what others might say, this is an example of this administration working with a registered social landlord to deliver more affordable homes on this development than would have otherwise been the case, because we have managed to get rid of the red tape that the administration kept putting on it when they were negotiating with developers who were unable to get grant money from Homes England if the affordable housing was subject to a Section 106 agreement. Similarly, a deal's been done with Bromford on the Great Western Road sidings, which will also see about, I think, 80 or plus additional affordable homes. So we're talking about this administration getting rid of ridiculous red tape and negotiation properly. And we're delivering about 160, 170 additional affordable homes because we've used the imagination and we've got rid of ridiculous negotiations which were just unproductive. And I think that's only good for the city of Gloucester and for the people that need affordable homes. Are we happy to approve? Thank you. Well, there you are. That's the end of the meeting. It's 7 o'clock, and I'll ask David to switch off the